A humanitarian truce in Nagorno-Karabakh hangs by a thread, with air raid sirens having wailed anew in the enclave's capital. Armenia and Azerbaijan accuse each other of violating the pause in fighting, which is less than a day old. From hospital bed to White House balcony in the space of a week, just hours after the US president held his first campaign event since being diagnosed with COVID-19, his doctor says Donald Trump is now no longer contagious. And coronavirus cases continue to climb here in Europe. French health authorities confirm a new single-day high of almost 27,000 infections as Germany brings in tighter restrictions. We'll bring you a special report from our team in Berlin. Hello and welcome back to the France 24 newsroom. I'm Thomas Waterhouse. The Russian foreign minister has spoken to his counterparts in Armenia and Azerbaijan, who, according to Moscow, have both confirmed their commitment to the infant ceasefire in Nagorno-Karabakh. They've told Sergei Lavrov that the Russian-brokered humanitarian truce needs to be strictly observed on the ground. But despite a brief pause in the fighting, fresh explosions rocked the capital of the mountainous enclave on Saturday night, with both sides accusing the other of serious violations. Alison Sargent reports.
The sirens haven't completely stopped in the capital of Nagorno-Karabakh. Air raid warnings like this one also rang out Saturday night as explosions rocked the city. Hours earlier, a ceasefire had brought temporary calm, allowing the region's Armenian residents to survey the damage from nearly 2 weeks of fighting.
Внутрь заходишь, вообще страшно. Ну, если перемирие будет, но временно это будет. 2-3 года успокоиться, а потом опять начнутся. Ну, вот как сейчас.
The contested region has seen other flare-ups, but this has been the worst fighting since an all-out war in the early 90s. The war ended with ethnic Armenians controlling Nagorno-Karabakh, despite the region being recognized as part of Azerbaijan. In the Azeri capital, some remain determined to take it back.
Yəni mən çox qarşıyam atəşkəsə. Yəni biz başlamışıqsa, artıq nə qədər şəhidlərimiz var. Yəni dəqiq məlumat yoxdur nə qədər, amma şəhidlərimiz var, hamı bilir onu. Yəni o şəhidlərin mənası nə idi onda? Yəni biz başlamışıqsa, nə qədərsə torpaq artıq götürmüşüksə, biz davam eləməliyik.
Both Azerbaijan and Armenia have already accused each other of violating the truce brokered by Russia. It's meant to allow the two sides to exchange prisoners and the bodies of fallen fighters. More substantive negotiations are meant to follow, and the stakes are high for the entire region. Turkey has waded into the latest flare-up by providing military support to its close ally Azerbaijan, creating fears of a larger conflict with Russia, which has a defense pact with Armenia.
Next, Kyrgyzstan's newly appointed Prime Minister says that he expects the president there to resign in 2 to 3 days. Hundreds of people took to the streets of the capital to celebrate the selection of Sadir Japarov, who's set to become acting president if Soronbay Jeenbekov steps down. Catherine Viette has more on the shake-up following days of violent post-election unrest there.
A show of force in the capital after the president called in the army to restore order. The move comes as embattled President Soronbay Jeenbekov reshuffled top security officials, while his allies in parliament elected a new acting prime minister.
When we met with the president, we agreed that if today the quorum is reached, and if the MPs confirm my candidacy and the government structure, he would step down within 2 or 3 days.
On Saturday, security forces rearrested ex-leader Almazbek Atambayev, a political foe of the current president. He's been accused of inciting unrest. Atambayev had been freed by supporters earlier in the week during protest against Sunday's disputed parliamentary elections. The country remains in a state of emergency with rallies banned and a curfew in effect. Protests erupted in the wake of Sunday's vote after pro-government parties won in a landslide. The opposition accused officials of vote buying and voter fraud. Demonstrators seized government buildings, even setting Parliament on fire. The Electoral Commission overturned the vote. In the power vacuum created by the clashes, opposition figures have continued to jockey for position, with each group promoting their own leaders. The president has said he will step down once a new cabinet has been sworn in and order is restored. Popular uprisings in 2005 and 2010 helped to topple two previous presidents.
To a jail in Minsk now, where Belarus's controversially re-elected president has spent over 4 hours meeting with some of his imprisoned opponents. Alexander Lukashenko sat down to discuss constitutional reforms with several of his rivals, including Viktor Babariko and Lilia Vlasova from the opposition's Coordination Council. The president's press team said his aim is to hear everyone's opinion, but the opposition has slammed that prison visit as being a sign of weakness. In other world news, the White House doctor says the US president is no longer considered a transmission risk. It's well over a week since Donald Trump was diagnosed with COVID-19, but it's still not clear if he's now actually tested negative. That development comes after the president made his first foray back into the world of canvassing and public engagements by addressing crowds who'd gathered in the Rose Garden. Jean-Émile Jamin reports.
First of all, I'm feeling great. I don't know about you. How's everyone feeling? Good?
President Donald Trump greeting supporters at the White House in his first public event since testing positive for the coronavirus. The president had been eager to jump back into the race, proceeding with the rally despite no clarification about when he had last tested negative. But in a statement on Saturday, White House physician Sean Conley declared that Trump was no longer a transmission risk. However, he still stopped short of saying that meant the president is now COVID-free. Trump, though, sounded like his old self as he rallied against his opponent, Joe Biden, accusing Democrats of embracing socialism and vowing a coronavirus vaccine was right around the corner.
I want you to know our nation's going to defeat this terrible China virus, as we call it. And we're producing powerful therapies and drugs, and we're healing the sick, and we're going to recover, and the vaccine is coming out very, very quickly in record time.
Despite public health guidelines encouraging social distancing, Trump supporters were closely packed together on the White House lawn. However, mask wearing was made compulsory, indicating a shifting mood since the president and first lady fell ill. Saturday's event set the stage for a full-fledged campaign rally on Monday in Florida, which will be followed immediately by two more in the battleground states of Pennsylvania on Tuesday and Iowa on Wednesday.
Well, as Trump was discussing his beloved topic of law and order, his rival Joe Biden was drumming up support in the battleground state of Pennsylvania. The Democrat focused on the economy and attacked the current president's policies, saying that any American who actually does an honest day's work sees Trump and his promises for what they are. This is what Biden had to say about his opponent's position on agriculture.
Farmers all across the country have been gutted by the president's broken promises and reckless trade war. But our farmers, just like our union members and anyone who actually does an honest day's work, see him and his promises for what they are.
An update for you now on the COVID-19 pandemic in Latin America. The Brazilian Health Ministry has announced that another grim milestone was reached on Saturday, with a total death toll since March breaching the 150,000 mark. Brazil has the second highest national death toll from this virus in the world, after the United States. The number of people infected with COVID-19 has jumped to record levels once again here in France. On Saturday, health officials announced that nearly 27,000 new cases have been confirmed, bringing the total tally since the start of the outbreak to almost 719,000. Nearly 5,000 others have been hospitalised nationwide across the last 7 days, including almost 1,000 who are in intensive care. Our colleagues at France 3 television have been inside one hospital in the northern Paris suburb of Saint-Denis.
The man being hooked up to this oxygen tank is 36 years old. He's just arrived at the hospital, infected with COVID-19. A third of the beds in this ICU are occupied by coronavirus patients in critical condition. Doctors say their unit has been full since the start of September.
We have a 36-year-old patient who was admitted overnight, an 8-year-old patient here a patient in their 60s, and then over there 3 patients in their 50s.
All of the patients are from Saint-Denis. France's poorest department is once again on the front lines of the outbreak. Healthcare workers are being pushed to the limit.
Everyone is tired, everyone is exhausted. A lot of colleagues are showing signs of post-traumatic stress. Right now, in the Saint-Denis intensive care unit, we aren't short-staffed. All of the shifts are accounted for. But we know that during the second wave, we won't get any extra help.
Meanwhile, the hospital's crisis unit is bracing for an influx of patients in the coming days.
What we want is for our staff to be able to take days off as scheduled, if it's possible.
It may not be possible for much longer. The hospital's directors believe they'll soon have to cancel non-essential surgeries. They're asking that the population do what they can to flatten the curve.
Next, this is not the time to party. That's what the mayor of one European city, known for its bustling nightlife, has said, with Berlin following in the footsteps of Frankfurt in imposing a partial COVID-19 lockdown. Until the end of this month, bars, restaurants, shops, petrol stations and pharmacies have closed. But the move hasn't gone down too well, with several thousand marching through the city in a silent protest on Saturday. The country's Robert Koch Institute has just confirmed a further 3,483 new infections nationwide. Our bureau in Germany has put together this next report.
Last call before curfew. In Berlin, the party's over. Bars and restaurants have to close from 11 p.m. this Saturday, and people can't gather in groups bigger than 10.
Ich habe auch irgendwie Verständnis.
Tatsächlich, dass sich ja einige Gebiete zum Risikogebiet erklärt haben und ja teilweise auch High Life hier in Berlin war.
The virus has come back with a vengeance. Authorities blame parties and alcohol. Right now, it's people between 20 and 40 who are the hardest hit. Even though he has followed the hygiene rules and made clients leave their contact details, his French brasserie owner is paying the price.
Ça n'a pas servi à grand-chose puisque, en fait, oui, la gastronomie, elle est punie.
The restaurant is only working at half capacity. Vincent Garcia is torn between anger and worry.
Oui, il faut mettre ces mesures en place. On n'a pas le choix, étant donné qu'il y a eu des débordements à Berlin les derniers mois. Il y a eu quelques mauvais élèves. Certains n'ont pas respecté les règles.
On Saturday, Germany reported more than 4,700 new COVID-19 cases. The country does over 1 million tests a week, but is now going to boost its tracing and testing. This epidemiologist says time is of the essence.
Was wir jetzt sehen, ist vielleicht etwas langsamer als genau wie die Entwicklung, die wir in Frankreich und in Spanien schon haben, mit stark zunehmenden neuinfizierten Zahlen und dann im Gefolge davon nur zeitversetzt dann eben auch eine größere Auslastung mit Covid-19-Patienten, auch auf Intensivstationen. Und da müssen wir jetzt etwas tun, um das möglichst unten zu halten.
The German government doesn't want to lose its edge in the COVID-19 fight, and so it's warning that new measures will be taken unless the situation stabilizes quickly.
And we end this bulletin with some sports news. For the 56th time, Novak Djokovic and Rafael Nadal will be facing off with those star tennis players set to compete for the men's singles title at the Roland Garros tournament here in Paris. But ahead of that face-off, Poland has been celebrating after 19-year-old Iga Swiatek became the first Pole to win a Grand Slam singles title. And that brings you up to date, but do stay with us here on France 24.